accomplish it without ever really defining what it was. And moving around without a purpose like this started taking a real toll on my career, on my health, on my family. Without the why, the purpose beneath what I was doing, the how became harder and harder. Soon I was working 14-hour days. I was traveling 3 days out of the month. I was slowly burning out. I was 24. And without having a focus in my life, things very soon got out of control. So I knew that I needed to move a mountain. For me, it was my blind pursuit of success, an overwhelming sense of obligation, my deeply held fear of failure. They didn't have a place in my life, and it took me a long time to figure out how to pack them up, how to label them appropriately, and how to move them out of my life. Vilfredo Pareto is a famous, now famous, Italian economist who in the 17th century found out that 20% of the Italians had 80% of that country's wealth. He called the 20% that had the 80% of the wealth the critical few, and the others he called the trivial many. My dad was a pack rat. He had more tools in his garage than he could ever use. He had 20% of the tools that he used 80% of the time. How many of you have a closet full of clothes, most of which you never wear? You wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. My father had a box of strings. The funniest part about that was that it was labeled string too short to use. He would wash Ziploc bags. Anyone? You still do? Save tin foil. He would say things like, eat everything on your plate, sweetheart, because the poor children are starving. And the funny thing about every time we packed, we'd have the boxes lined up in precise formation, ready to be moved out of the house, still taped shut from the previous move. My father used to put a moving sticker on each box. There was a moving sticker this high on a few of those boxes. I said, Daddykins, why don't we just put those out of the trash? Don't touch those boxes, Laura. There are important tools in there I'll need at the next house. Whatever. So we moved those boxes around with us. And so many of us today in our work are moving boxes of stuff around. We have papers that we've never even looked at. Do you have files that you don't even have the foggiest idea what's in there? A pile of paper you haven't even looked at in a year. When you look at moving your mountains, those trivial many things are all the things that you need to move. They are the obstacles that are getting in the way of you being able to accomplish your goals and not focusing on what's important. Think about a typical day. Oh, let's make it an easy day. Let's say you only have 10 things to do. Woohoo, easy day. You have this to-do list, you're ready to go. You get to work, and stuff starts happening to you, right? People walk in and interrupt you, and the phone goes off, and you get an email, and let's say you get a little block of time. You can actually pick something off of your to-do list. So what do you do first? The easy one. Most people will say, what can I knock off? And you check it off and you go, woo, did you see how productive I am? Look at that. So you're checking stuff off. Don't you get a sense of accomplishment when you check things off your list? That feels good, doesn't it? And at the end of the day, let's say you had a really productive day. You have 9 out of 10 things checked off. What's left? The most important one. And you say to yourself, I worked hard all day. How can this be that now I have to stay late and do this? This is not fair. You know, my dad has an expression that he says, sweetheart, a fair is something that comes to town once a year and it has a merry-go-round, and this ain't it. Okay, everybody say that with me. A fair is something that comes to town once a year and has a merry-go-round, and this ain't it. Part of what we have to do is learn to recognize that productivity is not about quantity. It's not about the number of things that you do in a day. I think time management training has